Welcome to The Scoop, a program where we go beyond the headlines, breaking down news and current affairs. Theft of stock worth more than 1.3 billion kwacha forces management at HomeCorp stores to employ underhand methods to probe the workers. A polygraph, also known as a lie detector, was to be used in the investigations to bring the suspects to book. However, the probe by a private South African firm turned out to be a case of two wrongs can never make a right.
We need to protect our integrity as a sovereign state. We know we are here to attract business, but at the end of the day, business must operate within the confines of the stipulated pieces of legislation.
It is a security feature which aims to protect musicians and other owners of artistic works from being denied full rewards of their labor. A hologram has been unveiled and more than 19 producers in the country have been granted licenses to administer it. However, some stakeholders have bemoaned the hologram in itself may not be the ultimate solution to the rampant cases of piracy.
The anti-piracy crack squad, what capacity do they have to combat piracy? Today they are operating in a container at Force headquarters there, a donated container. That tells you the kind of resolve that people have had in fighting piracy. You know, very, very childish. You know, we need to look at the legal fraternity, for example.
A search to start a new life in Lusaka for two visually impaired female teenagers turns into a nightmare. With chances of securing employment next to non-existent, the teenagers join the growing numbers of the visually impaired surviving on arms on the streets. The risks on the streets are many, but without relatives to turn to in the capital city and having been denied by their mother, the need to survive outweighs the risks.
Fuvene tulicha nga bamseperaso limbuti twali mbimula mu street twambo kusanga mu street pante first time ku kwisasanga kuno nokula sangwa mulyanga mu street ero chintu chafe pante bengewo tukumanya balatwe bapo amashu ya mjavi
panto amalwele na yafula mchalo ero pana tulipa monga fweba ichenga twalwala inonsta ero mmone nfoba brains wika shibwa chupa ero na malwele ngatsanga chito abashani panto abengi balandi fatsimbi tulale novelo nomba tikupele mpia nomba twalaikala shani pamongo kuteko.
I'm Chibesa Ngwira, and this week on the program, a giant leap towards fighting piracy has been unveiled as the much publicized hologram goes to the Zambian market. This comes following years of lobbying and pressurizing from mainly artists. However, some feel the arrival of the hologram may be an issue of too little, too late.
Who is to blame now? To blame.
Celebrated controversial reggae artist Michael Zulu is putting final touches to his forthcoming album. The album, expected to hit the market by the end of this year, and is poised to raise eyebrows like the Mad President album released in 2006.
Poyamba analio kondedwa onanilelo alindio zondedwa.
We are hoping to test our press freedom and our freedom of expression once again. And also there are songs that talk about, say, the investment, that we have in the country. Whether, songs like Chinese Copper, for example, where we own everything on paper, including the land, but what is there is not for us.
Sopano alindio zondedwa chifukwa chokondo na maboza.
Michael is not deterred as he defends his style of music by premising it on the truth.
You cannot misuse music and reduce it to the levels of, just being illicit entertainment. I think there is a chance that music can be, a very powerful tool for national development, a very powerful tool for gauging, our moral conduct as leaders.
His controversial albums and comments aside, Maiko, like many Zambian artists, have for many years not earned the full rewards of their talents due to piracy. The country is also losing millions of kwacha in revenue every year owing to increased levels of piracy. However, that may now be a thing of the past as the country has started administering the hologram, a security feature affixed on all authentic audiovisual products sold in Zambia. Chairperson of the National Task Force on the Implementation of the Hologram, Kingsley Nkonde, assures artists and owners of artistic works that all is on course.
One very important issue that we also need to look at is that we have a situation where there is still illegal music, especially in the likes of Tujiri, what they call the Z music. Well, the law enforcement officers are actually getting on the ground. Soon you'll be seeing action in that avenue because the approach that was given was that we tried to maximize on sensitization and to make sure that these people that we engaged, including the DVD dealers, could hit to the core, because one thing is that one thing we must appreciate about a hologram is there to ensure that they do genuine business and they make the genuine profits without fear. They won't be running away from people when they see the owners of the works or when they see the law enforcement officers.
About 19 producers have been accredited to administer the hologram, a figure some sections of the music fraternity, including Zambia Association of Musicians, ZAM President Maiko Zulu, feel is inadequate.
Yes, I understand, that a lot of people that, may not even have the interest of the musicians at heart have been given, the leeway to administer the hologram. Even some, I understand even some record companies that have been openly accused, by our musicians of being, some of the culprits in piracy. Because we know where the roots of piracy in Zambia lie, and some of these organizations are big now at the expense of Zambian musicians, So all this, I think the government, needs to protect its people, because we seem to have investors, who have come to kill the business of music, and we've let them go for so many years, to a point where some people think it's Maiko Zulu against these people, But really, musicians have, expressed concern at some of these organizations. Some of them are open secrets.
Maiko is also concerned the implementation of the hologram has lacked consensus among stakeholders, raising fears its objectives may not be attained.
I don't see why the task force was all over, disregarding the very people that matter. And now producers, believe me, I'm getting a lot of calls from our producers, our musicians, because the majority of them, I think over 80% of them, do not know what is happening. So there is need for inclusiveness. I think if the government is intending well on the hologram, they need to revisit the whole thing. We need to go back to the beginning and, start on a good note. Because at the end of the day, if we sow a rotten seed, then we are going to, we might as well not have the hologram, because if it's going to, point to even a little sense of corruption, little sense of, plunder, then us as musicians, my association, would not like to be involved with such a mechanism. But apparently people have been looking at the hologram as the messiah in terms of piracy. It is not going to be the messiah. The chaps on the streets are still going to sell a hologram can be duplicated in material.
But Mr. Nkonde shares a different view, stating that the country has made the first step in the right direction.
Technological advancement is there. People would be talking about people now are able to access movies from a pad. They are able to access these things. So, but when you look at the Zambian consumption in terms of music and movies, I think most of them is still on hard copy. And the intended purpose, if you look at the act, the amended act of 2010, it talks about the hard copy, which is the CD or the DVD. And so far, I mean, if we are not going to achieve the intended purpose, and you have 112,000 holograms that have been sold in a week, well, then I don't know what we're talking about. But what I think is that the hologram is going to achieve its intended purpose, and we are going to find that there will be a lot of positive development in the industry.
To ensure artists do not face difficulties accessing hologram accredited producers, more will be brought on board.
We accredited 19 producers, but I must mention that there will be another sitting to accredit more producers in sometime soon, date to be announced. We do acknowledge that 19, when you look at the population, and then the introduction of the hologram is not to make doing business difficult. It's to ease doing business, genuine business. So there is a need that more producers should be accredited, and we do acknowledge that fact. But I must mention that there were 43 applicants, and of the 43 applicants, when they did apply, there were a number of things that they needed to do to show. There were situations where we had some of the applicants, because when we talk about PACRA papers, they must be in order. We take that list to PACRA to see if they've been taking their returns. So that's part of compliance. But if you go to PACRA, you find them wanting, there's no way they can be accredited.
The law on the hologram in the Copyright Act 2010 became law mid this month, and November 1st, 2013 is a deadline when all audiovisual products on the Zambian market should have the security feature.
The paradox of unemployment for many out-of-school youths is getting desperate each year that passes as more and more are thrown on the streets. The situation is critical for disabled, let alone visually impaired youths, whose choice and nature of work they can do is very limited. This story looks at two visually impaired female teenagers who came to Lusaka early this year from Kitwe with the hope of a better life after finishing their grade 12 education.
Mercy and Memory became blind at a tender age some years back before their 5th birthdays. That was more than 14 years ago. Untreated measles attack caused the blindness.
Zona ishirelwala femisozo nalwedi. So basantwala kubasandeta ku church basandeta oya nayo naikakale. So fu baishitira hawe since amenso nayo natumutwala fe kunani ku school ya blind.
After nasalwala measles ofo bashirentwala ku hospital. After kuliofo twakire mu 1 month mu hospital for amenso yashire pofanda chiteta parike basandeta nayo naikakale.
After finishing their secondary education in Mumbwa last year, Mercy and Memory migrated to Lusaka in search of employment. Their search has been bleak, at least for now. It has been a limited search not only by movements, but also by their being visually impaired.
Recommendation letter kuri ba PS. Kai barandira ati mukaifwa ama vacancy ba PSMG. So photo aile bandembera recommendation kutuka twale fona tuwele nasapela ba boss bashitenje bati lolela ko 6 week. So 6 week nalishire yakubazanje bati leta yobeli ku public service commission. So fona ishire yakokuri again bandata leta yobeta ila fuma. So leta yobeta ila fuma wikashi wali sako zatwasata mpoku chula ukulala nensala apa kulala tatwa kwete bane beba shite mfiro lusibasa tupela bano pene tuikele ama blanket fons twala la fe Johnny twilile pa mbili kwa block fimbana. So ofe cha ishileba twasa kulia twaba londolo la basende chao loleleni banani ba public commission service tabali polo bambi bali asuka fefiro kula tusaskila kula landa fikula tumangwa chitatuli bantu so ine ndero ndafati pamango obuteko butwafuirisheko pantu amalwele naye afula mchalo ero pana tuli pamonga fweba ichenga twalwala inonshita era mmone nfo ba blind wikashibwa chupa yona malwele ngatsanga chito abashani pantu abengi balandi fatsimbi tulale novelo nombati kupele mpia nombati alaikala shani
muno mwene munusaka yengi kwati twinga bomboka amavaka nzukushaba bana bati bamongabe balandati mwiranje bapedi ashitimoline kuti narenga na kota pala ponse mwambira mune ikarafi nombati wa ikarafi apwisha amaezi angero ni shitule chula.
In the meantime, the teenagers, like some other visually impaired people, have turned to begging for survival. Begging at the junction of Lumumba and Kafue roads has barely kept them going for the past 7 months. Memory's 13-year-old sister, Charity, is their guide and helper for their day-to-day requirements. Many are the days when begging outings are not very successful.
Remoto asangi vopole ptomas vale kwa fevi mfumo matirikati kufuaro tukupere mpya. So ni mota kubane mpya shachi tuinga panga fiero shimo ni mfeteni kwa chafi. Yelo tuwabuela fefi la fine fti. Ni mota kuba fiero imukwisa fefi no fine tuwa ikala fetuala labane beba tupera kwe fshakuni.
Charity harbors dreams of one day continuing with her education. But that will only be if at all her visually impaired sister succeeds in finding employment. There is some ray of hope for Mercy and Memory as Community Development, Mother and Child Health Deputy Minister Jean Kapata urges the teenagers to take their plight to her office.
Let them come to my office and I have a look at their certificate. And if their certificates are okay, they've passed grade 2, because that's the minimum requirement that is needed at PSMD. One must at least be able to pass grade 12. So if they've passed and they can be employed, I'll take those personally. I'll take the letters to PSMD and present them so that the girls can be, we can get jobs and also educate their younger 13-year-old sister. We also have, as a ministry, yes, we have Kangonga in Ndola, where skills are taught. People make shining brushes, they make beautiful chairs, they make mats, they do a lot of different things. And after they make them, they take them for sale. So those are some of the skills that the blind, especially those who do not have qualification, can go and train at that particular place in Ndola called Kangonga Farm.
The number of visually impaired people on the streets of Lusaka is on the rise, and authorities mandated seem to have accepted the development. Renowned visually impaired HIV/AIDS human rights activist Elijah Ngwale is concerned that the Ministry of Community Development continues to sideline the visually impaired persons in many programs.
This National Trust Fund for the Disabled is the one which gives loans to all persons with abilities of all disability categories. But they are saying that blind persons will no longer be given a loan. And that they recently established a board which excludes the representation of the blind. So I am saying that, one, the board which they constituted recently must be dissolved and the new board be reconstituted. 2, they must begin giving loans to blind persons. And 3, the Ministry of Community Development must not practice discrimination, because this act, Persons with Abilities Act, and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Abilities, it's them who are supposed to run to supervise these documents. They must not practice discrimination. But unfortunately, the ministry, the National Trust Fund for the Disabled, and to some extent now even the Zambia Agency for Persons with Abilities, these 3 institutions are discriminating especially against blind persons. So in conclusion, I am saying that this must not be the case at all. This must be we are giving them a week, 1 week within which this board must be dissolved. National Trust Fund for the Disabled must be dissolved, blind persons be included. If they don't do that, I, Elijah Ngwale, Program Director of Zambia Disability HIV/AIDS Human Rights Program, I'm going to spearhead nationwide demonstration of blind persons.
Mr. Ngwale, however, makes a call to government to address the problem of the blind using children in their begging errands.
Let us now look at children of blind persons, children of blind parents, because we abuse our children, we blind parents. What must be done? I am appealing to government, especially Ministry of Community Development, Mother and Child Health, of course Ministry of Justice, to come up with a law that if a blind Elijah Ngwale is found abusing the children, one, Ngwale must be penalized. Two, those children, the child whom Ngwale is abusing, must be taken away from him and then be given education. The abuse of children is what is worrying me very, very much by blind persons.
Whether that will be done anytime soon is subject to speculation. What is clear for now is that 2 visually impaired teenagers have added to the numbers of the blind begging on the streets, not by their choice, but circumstances of life they had no control over.
South African furniture stores operating in the country has allegedly recorded rampant cases of theft of stock by workers. In a bid to investigate the theft amounting to millions of kwacha, the company engaged a private South African security firm to probe the workers. A polygraph test, also known as a lie detector, was to be used in the investigations in which the workers were to undergo tests.
Homcorp and Fenmat are sister furniture companies that established outlets in Zambia between 2000 and 2010. However, the furniture outlets have recently been hit by alleged rampant cases of stock losses. In the last 1 year, the company is said to have lost over 1.3 billion kwacha worth of stock in what management term as inter-branch transfer fraud. The company's national operations manager, Marius Jacobs, in a telephone interview confirmed the losses but declined to give details.
Mr. Jacobs, I just wanted to find out, I got information that you've lost stock in your companies through thefts worth more than 1.2 billion.
That is correct, we did have some losses.
You did have some losses. Is it possible I can have an interview on camera?
I will have to get the permission from the team.
Okay.
Let me speak to the team.
In an effort to investigate the fraud and bring the culprits to book, management engaged a South African security firm to probe the workers using a polygraph, also known as a lie detector. The company's business development executive, Saneo Raru, in a letter dated 29th August 2013, stated that in light of stock losses, the board of directors had instructed that employees responsible for stock management and administration undergo polygraph tests. The company did not end there, but also changed and backdated the code of conduct by including a requirement that all workers are subjected to polygraph tests to assist in investigations with regards to loss of assets. The workers rejected the company's intentions and sought government intervention.
What's happening in Homcorp, usually it's against the laws of Zambia, because the employees they've been engaged in so that they should undergo a polygraph test, so that they should be tested if the employees have stolen something or not. And the company, what the company has done, they have brought in a private investigator from South Africa to come and investigate the employees without even the Zambia police, without informing the Zambian police, which is really bad and absurd to the country of Zambia. There has been some more stock losses which happened. Now they assume that each and every person in the company is stealing. Each and every person in the company is stealing, which is bad for them.
The workers feel the company attempted to address the problem from the wrong end, leaving out the real challenges facing them.
Of them going to the root cause of the problem, instead of them looking at the salaries of those guys in charge of handling stock. What they are doing now is to investigate them, which is very bad. You find that the other person gets a lot of money, the other one doesn't, which is really, really bad.
Okay, have this matter been reported to the authorities, government?
Yeah, the matter has been reported. The minister was in the shop to have a discussion with the management, which they have told the management that they should not go ahead with the polygraph test because it is against the laws of Zambia.
Government, through the Ministry of Labour, intervened in the impasse and stopped the planned tests.
In Zambia, these tests were going to be unprecedented, and therefore we felt certain rudimentary issues needed to be addressed first prior to undertaking such a test. The second thing that was of concern to us as a ministry was that these tests were not going to have a legal basis. Because it could have depended really on the state of mind of an individual. For instance, when you subject an individual to a BP test, it would depend entirely on the state of mind at a particular time. So you would find a situation where even an innocent employee could have been implicated. That was the second worry that we actually feared for as a ministry. And the third worry was that the reported loss occurred at the company's warehouse, where most of the employees, in fact, don't have access. And so having a blanket approach, in our opinion, as a ministry, was not going to be very helpful. The fourth worry that we had was that we have adequate mechanisms of investigations in our country. We have the police, who are highly qualified in our country to investigate any crime of any nature, and they've done so well. And for us really to hire someone from another country like South Africa to come and undertake investigations in our country was going to be a compromise on our investigative mechanisms in our country.
Whilst government regrets the alleged losses, it states the country will not allow investors abrogate its sovereignty.
That such an intervention as was intended to be undertaken by the company for now may not be supported by our government, unless first of all we do thorough investigations and we appreciate the fact that whatever is being done is not at variance with our statutes. Because again, we don't want to have a situation where our statutes are just ripped left, right and center willy-nilly by anyone. So we need to protect our integrity as a sovereign state. We know we are here to attract business, but at the end of the day, business must operate within the confines of the stipulated pieces of legislation.
Government interaction with the company officials also established some failures obtaining in the firm.
But the worry again is that wherever you are, there must be compliance, and we noticed that there was a serious lapse in communication in between the workers and the management. For instance, if the workers had a grievance, they had to go as a team to go and approach the management. And for us, that was not giving us sustainability of good communication. And so what we advised the company was that since in Zambia it's law, and an employee has the right to belong to a union of an employee's choice, or let alone form an employee's union of one's choice. We advise that there be a union in the company so that there is a guarantee of smooth flow of communication in between the company and the employees.
Ministry of Home Affairs spokesperson Moses Swali advised the company to report the matter to relevant police wings.
They can go and see the director of criminal investigations in that respect, because they are the ones mandated by law to undertake investigations. Anything outside this is illegal, and they are merely victimizing workers who maybe some of them are even innocent. And when you are involving a private investigations company, especially coming from outside the country, there are procedures that are supposed to be followed. They require special government authority for them to be allowed to undertake such kind of operations in a country, and with in collaboration with the police officers within the country. So if they are doing that outside that, it's illegal, and that's why I'm advising them to immediately go to police headquarters and seek professional guidance from police headquarters.
What is certain for workers in Home Corp and Fenmat outlets is that they will never be subjected to polygraph tests. However, it is yet to be seen whether government intervention has also effectively closed down any local investigations of the alleged thefts.
That's it on The Scoop for today, but before we go, our proverb of the day. A leader who does not take advice is not a leader. A leader who does not take advice is not a leader. That's it. Join us next week for more. Bye-bye.